Greetings, everyone. It's Crime Talk with Corinne, and I am back with episode 5. Now, this video is not going to be long, and we are talking about DoorDash again. So, first, I want to say shout out to Two Turntables 469 for your comment under episode 3. That is what prompted this video. And also disregard any backgrounds. I've already tried. This is like my third or fourth take. We're just going to go with it because, like I said, I don't want to be here long. So, the comment that prompted this video from Two Turntables 469 was basically saying, what if that's what Bryan Kohberger was getting from Albertsons? Picking up a DoorDash order, right? What if this is why, he was at the Mad Greek? And so I remember back in the beginning when they mentioned some of the roommates or some of the victims worked at the Mad Greek and that he had been to the Mad Greek. And I was wondering, how does anybody, not how does anybody know that, but Bryan Kohberger doesn't have any outstanding features that make his appearance memorable or noteworthy. And that's not me, throwing shade or bashing him, but he has a very average Joe kind of look. So I can't imagine that he's at the Mad Greek and somebody recognizes him, right? Especially considering the fact that so many people said they had no clue who he was. So it's if he was there being a creep, if he was there making people uncomfortable, if he was there asking for one of the victims by name, I kind of think that when it came out that he was there ever, it also would have came out that he was being a lurker or a creep. But if they have the search warrant for DoorDash and they know that he was a DoorDasher and he picked up from the Mad Greek and they know that some of the victims worked at the Mad Greek, they can put them together, even though they still haven't necessarily formed a connection. But this helps to support he was obsessed, he was a stalker, he was a creep narrative. It has been suggested, alluded to, hinted at that there's a leak in the state law enforcement prosecution side, and that they are specifically leaking information either to the public or to a family or some of the families of victims. And so if they received this information about him being at the Mad Greek officially and said, hey, we formed a connection, maybe that's where we are. I remember Steve Gonzalez said right before either the gag order or the grand jury, I can't remember which one, but Steve Gonzalez said that he had found a connection between Bryan Kohberger and the victims, or at least Kaylee. And then either the gag order happened or the grand jury. I can't remember which one. I'm going to have to dig through way too much footage and interviews and stuff. But maybe somebody remembers this as well and can, comment and help me find it faster. But he said that they found a connection and then all of a sudden it's radio silence. And so I'm wondering, what if someone said, hey, he's the DoorDasher, he's been there before picking up orders. Again, I'm just speculating. I'm trying to, think and see what makes sense. If you have not watched episode 3 yet, I recommend that you go back and you watch it. In that episode, I basically gave my theory that what if Bryan Kohberger is the DoorDasher? That's why the DoorDash delivery was delivered around 4, right? So they have a specific time for everything, but they don't have a specific time for when the order was delivered. So the order was delivered around 4, and the crime happened between 4 and 4:25. Now we know that at 4:04 we saw suspect vehicle 1 on camera, right? And so then we know that at 4:20 we see suspect vehicle 1 leaving the area at a high rate of speed, right? So that gives us a 16-minute window of him off camera around the same time that Xana is receiving a DoorDash order. And so what I said in episode 3 is, what if the exculpatory evidence that Bethany Funk has that is unique to her experience, like nobody else can speak on this but her, what if her exculpatory evidence is that she received the DoorDash order? She's on the first floor. She's near the front door. So what if when he pulled up and he went to deliver the order and hand it to the resident, it was Bethany Funk who answered the door? If Brian Koberger handled the bag and gave it to Bethany Funk, that could be how touch or trace DNA had transferred from the DoorDash bag to the scene, the knife sheath, what have you. So again, this is just a theory. This is me speculating. This is me trying to make sense of the details that we have been given, the official details that we have been given. So today, 2 turntables leaves me a comment under episode 3 that got me thinking. And so I started deep diving. There's a story out of Florida from April, and a Uber Eats delivery driver was making his last delivery of the night, and he was dragged into the house, and unfortunately he was brutally murdered and dismembered. As I was researching that, I saw that during the same week, also in the Tampa area, a DoorDash delivery driver who was delivering to a hotel was kidnapped and assaulted. Then I was looking and saw that there were 2 guys, 118, 122 in Indianapolis, who pretended to be DoorDash drivers. They said that they had a Taco Bell order. They went to a house. They tried to force their way in, and one of the occupants of the home ended up killing one of those young men. So it's not far-fetched. It's not unbelievable that, these food delivery services and these rideshare apps and companies, that things like this could happen or be associated with them. A lot of people in the comments are saying, if he was a DoorDasher, then law enforcement definitely knows. I'm not saying they don't. What I'm saying is that maybe this is why Brian Koberger and the defense aren't really saying much. Because if they say, yes, he's the DoorDasher, that automatically puts him at the scene. And like I just said, there's instances where DoorDashers, Uber Eats drivers, Lyft driver, there's stories out there. You could Google it. It's a very quick Google search, and you can see different stories in different states of things similar happening to, or either happening to their drivers or their drivers doing some shady stuff. So I think that they're not saying he's the DoorDasher because that definitely puts him at the scene, right? And so they're already painting this picture that he's this a ninja. And so now it's like, oh, well, what if he knocked on a door and to deliver the DoorDash and saw how beautiful Bethany was and, just kicked his way in and killed everybody but left her because she's so beautiful and never saw Dylan. Some ridiculous story like that is basically what I'm saying they could come up with. And so the defense is like, we're not going to put it out publicly that he's the DoorDasher. Will let it come out in trial? Yes. But people were also talking about Brian Koberger's alibi. And they're like, well, if he's the DoorDasher, all he said was that he was driving around. And so the defense, Ann Taylor, said that she wanted to have a sidebar conversation, ex parte conversation with the judge to discuss the rest of his alibi, but did not want it to be out there on the record. And that conversation never happened. And if you look at the documentation where the state or the prosecution is asking to set the trial date for 2024, in that documentation, they say, hey, we gave him a chance to give an alibi and he can't change it now. And so I feel like what they're trying to say is, hey, you wanted to say that you were driving around. So keep that. Keep that same energy. You said you were driving around. Okay, so you were driving around. Don't try to add to it later, is basically what I think that they were trying to say, because the prosecution also knows that he was a DoorDasher. And so they're going to paint that picture. And that's what I was saying in episode 3. Maybe that's why he was in the area 12 times. And so they have all these different details that line up with him being a DoorDasher. They have not publicly or officially cleared the DoorDasher. They have a list of, the Uber driver was cleared, or the personal driver was cleared. The hoodie guy was cleared. The ex-boyfriend was cleared. Everybody who was called to the house that morning was cleared. But they did not clear the DoorDasher. I'm almost done here. So I'm laying here and, it's Friday night and I am thinking about, it's Friday, it's my winter break from school. I don't have any pressing deadlines. I have turned in, any of my work that I had outstanding for other people, and my schoolwork is done. And I'm like, I want to give myself a break. I was listening into Evil CJ's live, and I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll just call it a night. I'll play The Sims. I haven't played The Sims since summertime. I'm just going to chill out. And so I said, let me look at one more thing before I call it a night. And so what I did was I went to Google Maps and I said, I want to see how close is the Jack in the Box to Brian Koberger's house, right? So the order was delivered somewhere around 4. And just because it was delivered somewhere around 4 does not mean that's when it was ordered. And I want to say it was Drip Drop who did a video that said that they stopped receiving DoorDash orders around like 2:45 or something. This particular Jack in the Box. And when I Googled it, they're open 24/7. So I go to the Pullman Jack in the Box DoorDash page, and I noticed that they have a menu from 6 a.m. to like 3:39 a.m., which I thought was interesting. So I was like, that kind of lines up with, them stopping DoorDash around, 2:45. I don't know if that's a fact, but I heard it. So I'm like, okay. So I plug in Brian Koberger's address at the Steptoe Apartments. I plug in the Jack in the Box, right? And so I was like, this is really close. So then I add in 1122 King Road in Moscow. So from leaving the apartments to going to Jack in the Box to the King Road house, it's like 24 minutes. Okay, so I said in episode 3 that the movement of subject vehicle 1, according to the probable cause affidavit, seems like somebody that's lost. And I gave the reference to where I live, and when I try to DoorDash or do Uber Eats or even get an Uber or a Lyft, I can watch the driver on the map, lost. in my area for 20 minutes. They usually end up contacting me, calling me, sending me a message, asking me to basically walk them through how to get to my door. So it's possible, is all I'm saying. So I'm looking and I'm like, okay. So then I pull up the probable cause affidavit to get the timeline. So what are they saying? What are the movements? And now that I'm looking at the Google map, I'm going to read the probable cause affidavit step by step and see if I can trace his steps on the map. This is what I said I was going to do before I call it a night and play The Sims. So I'm trying to zoom in so I can see the street names on Google Maps. And I'm reading the probable cause affidavit, and I'm like, this is too much. I personally don't believe in coincidences, but this is way too much of a coincidence for me, and this is why I'm here doing this video. The probable cause affidavit says, at approximately 2:44 a.m. on November 13th, 2022, a white sedan, which was consistent with the description of the white Elantra known as suspect vehicle 1, was observed on WSU surveillance cameras, traveling north on Southeast Nevada Street at Northeast Stadium Way. Anybody that wants to check this, it's on page 7 of the probable cause affidavit. I included a screenshot in this video. So I'm having a fit because, yes, we know that Bryan Kohberger's where he lives and the Jack in the Box are fairly close by. But we also know that where he lives and where the victims live was also fairly close by. 10 miles is not far at all, right? And so when you look at the route on Google Maps, it's not long at all. It's under 30 minutes, might be under 15 minutes. If you go from his house straight to the King Road house. Anyway, I'm freaking out because I'm reading it. I'm so busy trying to find Nevada Street, looking on the map or the computer screen, that I completely miss the fact that I just said Northeast Stadium Way, and the address of Jack in the Box is Northeast Stadium Way. So now, y'all can call it a coincidence. It's too many coincidences at this point. The probable cause affidavit now has him on Northeast Stadium Way, where the Jack in the Box is. It also has him at 1122 King Road at the same time the DoorDash delivery is being delivered. There are so many people that are saying that the DoorDasher has been clear. Bryan Kohberger isn't a DoorDasher. There are so many people saying all those things, and I have not seen an official statement yet. Like I said, it's possible the trial could start and they could call a woman to the stand and say, this is, Jill such and so, and she's the DoorDasher, blah, 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 blah. She says that she saw suspect vehicle 1, whatever. It's possible that this could happen. Like I said, I wasn't there. I don't know. None of us know. So for anybody telling me that I'm dead wrong, you don't know that either. I don't know that I'm right. You don't know that I'm wrong. But if we're saying because of the movements of suspect vehicle 1, we know that it's Brian Koberger, and we know that he's the killer. If we can say that, then why can't we say, based off of those same movements, based off of the same probable cause affidavit, he is on the same street as the Jack in the Box, and he's on the same street as the delivery address at the same times that the order would have been delivered, or the order would have been placed, and the same time that the order would have been delivered. So we can, agree to disagree, or, if you think that this is more proof that Brian Koberger is the DoorDasher, leave me a comment. Either way, I can be convinced. I'm not so stubborn in my thinking that my mind cannot be changed. If somebody tells me something that I'm like, oh snap, I didn't think of it, I'll look into it. But, we're all basically doing the same thing, trying to figure out what makes sense. And for those of you who, think that, we should move on, we should worry about something else, we should just wait for the trial and let the details come out then, that's your opinion. But what I will say to that is, you would be surprised at the things that people do when they think no one is paying attention. I was about to wrap this up. I said I was going to be short. It's literally the same length as my other videos. But I had ended the video. I went back to listen to it. And as I was listening to it, I thought of something else. So here we are. But thinking back to how close Brian Koberger is to the Jack in the Box, I know a lot of people who do DoorDash and Instacart and Lyft and Uber and things like that. They sign in, right? So they're active in the system, and then when order pops up or a ride pops up that's close to them, they get a notification. Sometimes, I guess, depending on the app or your settings, it may just pop up into your queue, or for some it may just pop up on a dashboard and you can accept it. So what if the Jack in the Box order for Xana was placed, and because it's so close to where he is, that's why he ended up leaving his apartment at 244 to begin with? What if the only reason that he left his home that night, morning, whatever you want to call it, was because somebody placed an order for DoorDash? And so he picks up the order and he goes to deliver it, and now he's the suspect. It's possible. It's reasonable. And another thing that I remembered was when they were discussing the alibi. First, they asked for an extension. And then the second time that it came up, they, basically said that they didn't have to provide the alibi, and that it was going to be revealed during the witness testimony or cross-examination. And so the state or the prosecution was not satisfied with that answer. And they're like, quit playing. Where were you at? If you want to give an alibi and say that you weren't there, tell us where you were at. And so that's when the defense said he was driving around, and then said, hey, judge, let me holler at you. I'm going to tell you what he was driving around doing. And like I said earlier, that never came to be. So, we're going to see what happens here. This is my theory, and the more I look into it, the more that it makes sense. Like I said earlier, if you have another theory, an opposing theory, something that just blows my theory completely out the water, tell me. Drop down in the comments. Let me know. I am open-minded. I'm this is just an idea, and it's not set in stone. So Again, drop down in the comments. Let me know what you think about the video, the theory, your thoughts, maybe even a topic for the next video. I do want to discuss the proposed summer 2024 trial date. We'll get to that at some point. And but otherwise, that's all I got. I'll be back.